It was just another Monday morning at Westfield Analytics, where the fluorescent lights hummed overhead and the familiar sound of keyboards clicking filled the air. The office was a bustling hub of activity, with employees shuffling between meeting rooms, chatting by the water cooler, and most importantly, making their ritual pilgrimages to the coffee machine. For most of us at Westfield, that coffee machine wasn't just an appliance. It was the lifeblood of our productivity, the silent hero that kept our creativity flowing and our deadlines met. I'm Alex Chin, a project manager who's been with the company for just over 3 years. My reputation around the office was built on two things: my ability to bring projects in under budget, and my legendary coffee consumption. 4 cups a day was my minimum, and everyone knew not to schedule meetings with me before I'd had my first cup. My desk was adorned with various coffee mugs collected from conferences and client gifts, each one telling a story of past projects and professional milestones. And then there was Jamie Sullivan, our graphic designer whose desk sat diagonally across from mine. Jamie had joined the company about 8 months ago, bringing a fresh creative energy that had revitalized our marketing materials. With wavy brown hair that seemed perpetually tousled and glasses that frequently slid down the bridge of his nose, Jamie had a casual charm that contrasted with my more structured approach to work. While I tracked projects in color-coded spreadsheets, Jamie sketched ideas on napkins and sticky notes. Our professional interactions had always been pleasant but limited to project feedback and the occasional small talk by the printer. What I didn't know that Monday morning was that the universe had plans to throw us together in the most unexpected way. As I walked into the office, something felt off. The usual morning chatter was replaced by a different kind of noise, the sound of distress. Following the commotion, I found myself in the break room, where a small crowd had gathered around our beloved coffee machine. The scene before me was nothing short of apocalyptic for a Monday morning. The coffee machine's display was dark, and a small puddle of water had formed beneath it. "It's dead," announced Melissa from accounting, her voice hollow with despair. I tried everything, unplugging it, plugging it back in, sweet-talking it. Nothing works. The reactions around the room ranged from disbelief to panic. Dave from sales dramatically declared it a company emergency and suggested we all go home for the day. Sarah from HR immediately started researching the warranty information, while the IT team huddled around the machine as if it were a patient in critical condition. "Has anyone called maintenance yet?" I asked, trying to maintain some semblance of order. "They can't come until tomorrow at the earliest," replied Mark, our office manager, looking genuinely stressed. Apparently, they're dealing with an HVAC emergency in the building across the street. The news hit the room like a collective punch to the gut. A full day, possibly more, without coffee was unthinkable. People began discussing alternatives: energy drinks, tea, even chocolate as a desperate source of caffeine. I watched as my colleagues dispersed, their Monday morning spirits dampened further by this unexpected crisis. I returned to my desk, determined to find a solution. Coffee wasn't just a preference for me, it was essential to my workflow. Opening my laptop, I began researching coffee shops within walking distance of our office building. There was a Starbucks about 6 blocks away, but the morning line would be horrendous. A local cafe called Bean There, done that was closer, just 3 blocks down, but I'd never tried it before. As I was comparing options, I noticed Jamie at his desk, staring at his computer screen with unusual intensity. Coffee withdrawal already kicking in? I called over. Jamie looked up, a small smile forming. "Is it that obvious? I've been staring at this same design for 20 minutes, and I swear the colors are starting to move on their own." "I'm researching our options," I said, gesturing to my screen. "There's a place called Bean There, done that just a few blocks away. I was thinking of making a coffee run. Want to join forces?" Jamie's face lit up. "That place is amazing. Their lattes are practically works of art. But..." He glanced at his watch. "I have a client call in 30 minutes. Not enough time to go, wait in line, and get back." I felt a twinge of disappointment, which surprised me. Then an idea struck. What if we share? I could bring back a large coffee, and we could make it work with 1 mug between us. There was a moment of hesitation, and I suddenly wondered if I'd overstepped some invisible boundary. We were friendly colleagues, sure, but sharing a coffee mug was perhaps more intimate than our usual interactions warranted. But then Jamie smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "That's actually perfect. I'll Venmo you for half." And just like that, our coffee adventure was set in motion. I grabbed my jacket and headed out, the cool autumn air a refreshing change from the stuffiness of the office. The walk to the cafe gave me time to think about work, about the coffee machine crisis, and unexpectedly, about Jamie. We'd worked together on numerous projects, but I realized I knew very little about him beyond his professional skills and coffee preferences. Being there, done that was exactly as Jamie had described, charming and cozy, with the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans enveloping me as soon as I walked in. The walls were adorned with local artwork, and mismatched vintage furniture gave the place a homey feel. Despite the morning rush, the line moved quickly, and soon I was ordering a large dark roast, strong enough for me, but not so intense that Jamie wouldn't enjoy it. As I waited for our order, I found myself wondering what kind of mug Jamie might prefer from my collection. The sleek black one from the digital marketing conference? Or maybe the whimsical one with cartoon cats that a client had given me? It was such a trivial thing to consider, yet I found myself genuinely curious about which would make him smile. The barista called my name, handing over a large cup with steam curling invitingly from the top. The walk back to the office seemed quicker somehow, my steps energized by the anticipation of returning with liquid gold for both of us. When I arrived back at our floor, I found Jamie waiting, having cleared a small space on his desk for our shared coffee moment. "You're a lifesaver," he said as I approached, eyes fixed on the cup in my hand. My creative brain cells were starting to shut down one by one. I placed the coffee on his desk and pulled up a chair. "One rescue coffee, as promised. Now we just need to figure out the logistics of sharing." Jamie reached into his drawer and pulled out a small bottle of hand sanitizer. "Safety first," he said with a grin, offering me some before taking a dollop himself. That small gesture, thoughtful and considerate, made me see Jamie in a slightly different light. As we sat there, taking turns sipping from the same cup, our conversation flowed more easily than I had expected. We started with work talk, his upcoming design deadlines, my project management challenges, but soon drifted to more personal topics. "So how did you get into graphic design?" I asked, passing the cup back to him after taking a sip. Jamie's eyes lit up with passion as he began to explain. "I've always been drawing for as long as I can remember. My parents' fridge was covered in my artwork from kindergarten through high school. But I actually started college as a business major because it seemed more practical. 3 miserable months later, I switched to design and never looked back." He took a sip of coffee, his fingers brushing against mine as he took the cup. That brief contact sent an unexpected warmth through me that had nothing to do with the coffee. "What about you?" Jamie asked. "Was project management always the dream?" I laughed. "Hardly. I wanted to be an astronaut until I discovered I get motion sick on merry-go-rounds. Then a veterinarian until I realized I'm allergic to most animals. Project management kind of found me. Turns out I have a natural talent for organizing chaos and keeping people on deadline." "The unsung hero of every successful project," Jamie said, raising the coffee cup in a mock toast before taking another sip. Our colleagues walked past, some giving us curious glances, others too caught up in their own coffee-deprived misery to notice our little arrangement. In that moment, sharing a single mug of coffee with Jamie felt like we were co-conspirators in a small adventure, separate from the rest of the office. As our coffee dwindled, Jamie glanced at his watch. "My call is in 5 minutes. I should get ready." He took one last sip and handed the nearly empty cup back to me. "Thanks for this, Alex. You've saved my Monday." "Anytime," I replied, surprised by how much I meant it. "Good luck with your call." As I returned to my desk, I found myself replaying our conversation, the way Jamie's eyes crinkled when he laughed, how animated he became when talking about design. It was strange how sharing something as simple as a cup of coffee had shifted something between us, creating a connection that hadn't been there before. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of emails and meetings, but I found my thoughts drifting back to our shared coffee moment. By lunchtime, the office was in full crisis mode. People were sluggish, irritable, and the vending machine had been completely cleared of its energy drinks and chocolate bars. "We need to do something," declared Melissa during our team check-in. "This is affecting productivity." I just found Dave asleep at his desk, drooling on a sales report. "Maintenance still says tomorrow at the earliest," Mark informed us grimly. I found myself speaking up. "I made a coffee run this morning to being there. Done that. It's not too far. Maybe we could organize a group coffee break? Get out of the office, get some fresh air and caffeine." The suggestion was met with enthusiastic agreement, and soon a sign-up sheet was circulating for an afternoon coffee run. As people were adding their names and orders, I noticed Jamie approaching my desk. "Hey," he said, a slight hesitation in his voice. "I was thinking of making another coffee run before the group one. My creative energy is crashing again. Want to join me this time? We could continue our mug-sharing arrangement." I felt a flutter of anticipation. "Definitely." I could use a refill too. The autumn sun was bright as we stepped outside, a welcome contrast to the fluorescent lighting of the office. Our conversation picked up as if it had never paused, flowing naturally from work to movies to our favorite places in the city. "There's this little bookstore cafe in the West End that I think you'd love," Jamie said as we walked. "They have these incredible pastries and the best reading nooks." "That sounds perfect," I replied, mentally noting how he'd said, "you'd love," rather than, "you might like," as if he'd already given thought to my preferences and tastes. At been there, done that, the lunch rush had subsided, and we found ourselves at the counter together, debating the merits of various coffee options. "You should try their mocha," Jamie suggested. "It's not too sweet, and they use real dark chocolate." "I usually stick to plain black coffee," I admitted, "but I'm willing to be adventurous." Jamie's eyes met mine with a playful challenge. "Living dangerously, huh? Sharing a mug and trying mocha all in one day." The barista, a young woman with vibrant blue hair, smiled at our banner. "You two are cute," she commented as she took our order. "How long have you been together?" The question caught us both off guard. Jamie's cheeks flushed slightly, and I found myself stumbling over my words. "Oh, we're not. We're just colleagues. The office coffee machine broke, so we're sharing." "Uh-huh," she replied with a knowing smile that suggested she didn't believe us for a second. One large mocha coming right up. As we waited for our order, a comfortable silence fell between us. The misunderstanding was amusing, but it also planted a seed of thought that I wasn't quite ready to examine. "Sorry about that," Jamie finally said, breaking the silence. "Baristas and their assumptions." "No need to apologize," I assured him. "It's an easy mistake to make, I guess." Two people sharing a coffee cup, laughing together. Our eyes met briefly, and something unspoken passed between us before we both looked away. The barista called our order, saving us from the moment of awkwardness. Back at the office, we settled at Jamie's desk again, taking turns with the mocha. I had to admit, it was delicious, rich and complex, much like the new dynamic developing between us. "So, verdict on the mocha?" Jamie asked, watching my reaction closely. "You were right," I conceded. "It's amazing. I might have to expand my coffee horizons." "I have excellent taste," he replied with a wink. "In coffee and in coffee-sharing companions." The compliment, casual as it was, warmed me more than the coffee. As we continued to talk, I noticed subtle things I hadn't before, the way Jamie gestured expressively when explaining a design concept, how he listened intently when I spoke, leaning forward slightly as if to catch every word. Our second shared coffee stretched longer than we'd planned, and I realized with a start that I was running late for a meeting. "I should go," I said reluctantly, standing up. "Thanks for introducing me to mocha. It was a nice change." "The pleasure was mine," Jamie replied. "Same time tomorrow if the coffee machine is still out of commission?" "It's a date," I said, then immediately backtracked. "I mean, not a date, just a coffee arrangement." Jamie's smile was warm. "I knew what you meant. Go ace your meeting." As I hurried to my meeting, I couldn't help but analyze our interaction. Had I imagined the connection between us? Was I reading too much into simple colleague camaraderie born out of a coffee crisis? The afternoon coffee run organized by the office was successful but lacked the intimacy of my coffee-sharing experience with Jamie. I found myself comparing every conversation to the ones we'd had, finding them somehow less engaging, less meaningful. By the end of the day, the office had adapted to the coffee machine crisis with typical corporate resilience. Alternative caffeine sources had been secured, productivity had somewhat recovered, and maintenance had promised a repair first thing in the morning. As I was packing up to leave, Jamie stopped by my desk. "Thanks again for today," he said. "Both coffee runs saved my creative process. I actually finished the Henderson campaign designs ahead of schedule." "Happy to help," I replied. "And thanks for pushing me out of my black coffee comfort zone." There was a brief pause, as if both of us wanted to say more but weren't sure how. Finally, Jamie spoke. "Even if the coffee machine gets fixed tomorrow, maybe we could still get coffee together sometime? There's a lot more on their menu I think you'd enjoy trying." My heart did a little skip. "I'd like that," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "It's good to have a coffee guide for new experiences." Jamie's smile was soft. Then it settled. Coffee adventures continue, with or without the office crisis. As I left the building that evening, I couldn't help but smile to myself. Who would have thought that a broken coffee machine would lead to such an unexpected connection? Sometimes the universe has strange ways of bringing people together, over shared mugs and moments that change everything. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual, a sense of anticipation driving my steps. The break room was my first stop, where I found Mark standing proudly beside a brand-new coffee machine, sleeker and more sophisticated than our old one. Maintenance couldn't fix the old one, he explained to the small crowd that had already gathered. But the company approved an emergency replacement. This one does espresso drinks too. The news was met with cheers and sighs of relief. As people lined up to try out the new machine, I found myself hanging back, my thoughts on Jamie and our coffee-sharing arrangement that was now technically unnecessary. When I reached my desk, I found a sticky note attached to my computer screen. In Jamie's distinctive handwriting, it read, "New coffee machine looks impressive, but I still vote for being there. Done that at 10:30? Your coffee guide awaits." Looking up, I caught Jamie's eye across the office. He raised an eyebrow in question, and I nodded with a smile that probably revealed more than I intended. His answering grin sent a warmth through me that no coffee could match. At 10:30, we slipped out of the office together, walking closer than we had the day before. The autumn air was crisp, and our conversation flowed easily, picking up threads from yesterday as if they'd never been dropped. "So tell me more about this bookstore cafe you mentioned," I said as we walked. "The one with the reading nooks." Jamie's face lit up. "It's this hidden gem called Chapters and Cups. They have these amazing alcoves with comfortable chairs where you can sit for hours with a book and a coffee. The owner is this retired literature professor who gives personalized recommendations. I go there on weekends sometimes to sketch and read." "It sounds perfect," I replied. "I've been looking for a good weekend spot that isn't my apartment." Jamie hesitated for a moment before saying, "Maybe we could go there sometime? This Saturday, if you're free? They have a poetry reading in the afternoon that's supposed to be really good." The invitation hung in the air between us, clearly stepping beyond colleague territory into something more personal. I felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement. "I'd love that," I said, my voice more confident than I felt. "It's a date." This time, I didn't correct myself, and Jamie's smile told me he didn't want me to. At Been There, Done That, the same blue-haired barista greeted us with a knowing smile. "The office colleagues are back," she said with a wink. "Still sharing one cup?" Jamie looked at me, a question in his eyes. "Actually," I said, making a decision, "we'll take two this time. A mocha for me, and caramel latte for me," Jamie finished. As we waited for our drinks, our hands brushed against each other, and this time, neither of us pulled away. Instead, Jamie's fingers gently intertwined with mine, a small gesture that felt significant in its intentionality. "So," he said softly, "not sharing today?" I squeezed his hand lightly. "I think we're beyond sharing coffee cups now, don't you?" His smile was warm and full of promise. "Definitely. But I'm looking forward to sharing a lot more than coffee with you, Alex." As we walked back to the office, coffee cups in one hand and fingers loosely intertwined with the other, I couldn't help but think how strange and wonderful life could be. A broken coffee machine had created the perfect opportunity for connection, forcing us out of our routine and into a shared experience that might never have happened otherwise. Back at the office, our colleagues were too busy enjoying the new coffee machine to notice the subtle shift between Jamie and me. But as the days passed, people began to pick up on the changes, how we gravitated toward each other in meetings, the inside jokes that made us laugh for no apparent reason, the way we'd leave for lunch together and return with matching coffee cups from Been There, Done That. Our Saturday at Chapters and Cups was everything Jamie had promised and more. The bookstore cafe was charming and intimate, with shelves of books creating cozy nooks throughout the space. We spent hours talking, reading, and simply enjoying each other's company away from the office environment. As weeks turned into months, our relationship deepened beyond what either of us had expected. We navigated the complexities of dating a colleague with care, maintaining professionalism at work while allowing our personal connection to flourish outside office hours. There were challenges, of course. Office gossip flared up briefly when people realized we were dating. Some colleagues made jokes about the coffee machine being our matchmaker. But the initial awkwardness faded as people saw how well we worked together, both professionally and personally. 6 months after the coffee machine broke down, Jamie and I found ourselves back at Been There, Done That on a snowy evening after work. The blue-haired barista, now familiar with our regular orders, greeted us warmly. "You know," Jamie said as we settled into our favorite corner table, "I never properly thanked that coffee machine for breaking down." I laughed. "Maybe we should buy it a thank you card. Or name our first pet after it," Jamie suggested with a playful smile. "Little Kirich Sullivan has a nice ring to it." The casual mention of a shared future made my heart skip. "You've thought about us having pets together?" Jamie reached across the table to take my hand. I've thought about a lot of things with you, Alex. That broken coffee machine gave me the courage to finally talk to the person I'd been admiring from across the office for months. One shared mug led to shared weekends, shared dreams. I'm hoping for a lot more sharing in our future. In that moment, surrounded by the rich aroma of coffee and the soft murmur of cafe conversation, I realized how profoundly grateful I was for that Monday morning crisis. Sometimes the universe knows exactly what we need before we do, even if it comes in the form of a broken coffee machine and one shared mug. What started as a workplace inconvenience had become the beginning of our story, a story we now told with laughter and fondness, a story that reminded us how the most meaningful connections can form in the most unexpected moments. And as Jamie smiled at me across the table, his eyes full of warmth and possibility, I knew that our story was just beginning. Total_char_count, 18,675.